Welcome to the People's Podcast, an employer's resource by Group Management Services. I'm your host, Alyse Kimble.
This podcast does not constitute legal or financial advice. Its accuracy, completeness, or adequacy is not guaranteed. Use the information at your own risk. Consult an attorney or financial advisor before taking any action.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for People's Podcast number 2. We're going to go over demystifying PEOs, and I would like to introduce our special guest here, Megan Croley. Megan Croley is our VP of Client Services here at GMS. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks, Alyse. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. We're so glad that you are. So I really wanted to start this conversation with just a general, what are PEOs and why would a small business even want to use one?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
So PEOs, I've actually been working in the PEO space since 2011, mostly in the, HR and client services, customer services roles, but I've had exposure to all of the different things that PEOs do. So a PEO is a professional employer organization. We really specialize in working with a small to medium-sized company. So what is that? Could be 5 employees, could be 50. Really a small business is going to be under 100 employees, and then a mid-size could be anything under 1,000.
Okay.
So there's a good range there, but that's really the sweet spot because what we do is help administer both administrative, tasks within the organization, as well as offer just a kind of a menu of HR services. So for an organization who really wants to focus on their operational things, a landscape, organization wants to focus on landscaping, right? A hotel wants to focus on, what they do, with entertainment and with hospitality. We can come in and supplement and assist with all that back office stuff that maybe they don't know what to do or how to do it. So it's a really cool opportunity to enhance any organization with those types of services. So what I think is really unique about PEOs, and, if you've never heard of a PEO, you'd have no idea what this relationship is like, but It's what's considered co-employment.
Okay.
So co-employment means that we are going to partner with our client and customer organizations on compliance items, tax reporting and payroll reporting items, make recommendations and guidance on HR, employee-related matters. But at the end of the day, our clients maintain all of the control over their day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
That's the nature of co-employment. Some people will get it confused with employee leasing, which is traditionally your staffing type of agency where you may be borrowing employees or talent from the staffing agency.
Right.
But the staffing agency does maintain the control, make some decisions. Very different than that, and also very different than your typical joint employment relationship. In joint employment, you may also lose both parties can make decisions. And in this case, the PEO can't really make those and execute those final decisions. We're here to support and to provide guidance.
That's great. And I feel like that really does clear it up because I know that when I talk about what I do to a lot of people, they're like, oh, PEOs, what is that? And when you try to describe it, people are like, oh, well, it's an employee leasing. And I think we get that a lot. Yeah. And I think you just demystifying the fact that no, it is not. It's a very different relationship. Almost like you have skin in the game too as a PEO. We want your business to be successful because it helps our business also to be successful.
100%. And some of our best clients come in and they know that they want to offer new services that they didn't really have access to or affordable access to in the past. Or maybe they want to grow and they need some assistance hiring or cementing in some foundational items before they grow, such as a handbook or some policies, some work rules, so that it's not mayhem. But some of the services the PEOs do offer, kind of the key components, are going to be payroll.
Okay.
So I like to think of it as the hub of the wheel that keeps the whole train moving. With payroll then comes the tax reporting and the quarterly annual filings. We handle all of that and kind of take it off our client's plate, which is kind of a silent win.
That's great.
Yeah, some people don't realize how much time that can take, or how there's obviously accuracy is so important there. So to be able to take that off their plate is huge. And there's probably about 50 to 60, maybe 75 at this point, certified PEOs. So if you ever see the designation CPEO, that's what that stands for. And a certified PEO is an organization, a PEO who's gone through a very rigorous testing and credentialing with the IRS specifically. You have to meet certain thresholds to ensure just that you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
I think there's a fear with clients joining a PEO that's like, well, you say you're filing my taxes or you say you're going to pay my employees, but how do I check and balance that?
Right.
And being certified is a huge accreditation to say we mean what we say when we say we're going to do it, because if not, we risk losing that credential.
Absolutely.
So I think that's cool because there's almost, upwards of 500 PEOs across the country. So to be one of those certified is really cool.
That's great too, that I feel like as a business owner, that would give me so much peace of mind knowing that like I'm partnering with an accredited company. They, are backed by the IRS. The IRS is vouched for them. Like
Right.
that's such a huge, like, whew,
Yeah.
like weight off your shoulders as a business owner, because gosh, there's so many like vendors out there who are dishonest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's tough. So outside the payroll, and I know we'll get into some details with the rest of the services PEOs can offer, but the other big piece is going to be benefits administration, so healthcare offerings and ancillary or different product lines there. Most PEOs will also offer to either administer a company's workers' compensation policy or even offer their own, like a self-insured platform.
Okay.
And then the HR arm, so the kind of traditional HR of assisting with employee relations, assisting with project-based things like handbooks, job descriptions, salary analyses, those kinds of things. So kind of a nice menu of options available.
I love that. That's great. So what are I want to get to common misconceptions here in a moment about PEOs, but and I think we covered that a little bit in our previous conversation too. But if there's anything additional you want to add, but I do want to talk a little bit about why would a small business owner want to partner with a PEO versus just hiring somebody internally to do it for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that all the time in, prospecting meetings, talking with potential business, and they're asking that exact same question.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest reasons to come on board with a PEO is the kind of transition of risk when it comes to compliance with, reporting taxes and things like that.
Okay.
And there's even a liability shift with some other things such as workers' compensation, HR, because we're advising on those things and we may be offering kind of like insurance relating to those things. Another big reason is organizations that are brand new.
Okay.
So maybe they're in the infancy stage. Could be the first time they've ever had a W-2 employee. And they just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So it's a huge benefit. Or they could just be in the infancy stage or maybe in the growth stage. The growth stage is a really great place to look at PEOs because we can assist with the, recruiting and onboarding of new talent, the streamlining of services. Many PEOs, I know GMS, for example, has really moved into the electronics, era of things. So as far as onboarding new employees, enrolling in benefits, all of that is done in an employee portal that talks right to the HRIS or the payroll system. So there's not a ton of paper flying around. And that obviously allows for a business to scale or to grow or to go into a new location. Maybe I've only ever owned a business in Florida and now I'm going to Georgia. Well, what do I do?
Right.
Where do I start?
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking about all the state, local taxes.
Yes, there's taxes. There's
Oh my
there's
goodness.
different workers' compensation
And
laws.
HR laws.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, not that that's the only type of organization a PEO would work with in that growth stage of business, but that's a really nice sweet spot for us as well. But there's a variety of reasons, continued growth, security, like just kind of knowing you're doing the right thing, having somebody to call when you're not exactly sure what to do in a certain situation.
Right.
Just gives you a little buddy or like a little bit of peace of mind that you have people in your corner.
Yeah.
Most PEOs will have a whole support team that's coming your way as a customer. So it could be a payroll, person plus an HR person plus a benefits person if you buy into their benefits.
Right.
Plus, maybe a time clock person where we're managing your workers' comp. Like you get 4 or 5, maybe 8 people that automatically become part of your team.
Yeah.
That aren't on your payroll, but who are working for you.
I can imagine how expensive that would be just to hire, even 4 people to support in those different areas internally.
Yep.
And then having that as probably a fraction of the cost through a partnership with a PEO.
Yeah. I mean, just as like an example there, as far as saving, time, allowing an organization to grow, we have a company, it's a tire company, and they operate in a bunch of different states.
Okay.
And when we went in and talked to the CFO about who, when we were kind of prospecting them, it's like, who's doing what right now? What does the HR person own? What does your payroll person own? Where are they spending their time? And we learned that the CFO was still handling a lot of that kind of traditional administrative HR stuff, including workers' compensation management. So he's managing the plans, the policies, the claims, collecting, paperwork, working with different medical providers, and doing a lot of that on his own. And it was taking probably, just hours of his week. And as a CFO, he should not have been having to do that.
No.
So he was holding on to it. So when we talked about what the package with GMS would look like, how they can have, coverage in different states, how we become their third-party administrator, we become their medical review, we handle it from a medical standpoint. And then if things do escalate and we, are litigating a workers' compensation claim, we own all of that. And he was like floored. He's like, I could just give this to you. And obviously he has oversight and he's going to be involved. But he was like, that would probably save me 5 hours a week.
Oh my gosh.
Because they have 13 different locations, different states, you're managing different policies. So it was just this quick win of well, this is what we do every day. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I would love to have 5 hours back in my week. I don't know about you.
Yes.
But that would be amazing. Yes.
God.
Give me that 5 hours.
Yeah.
Let's get back a little bit more into misconceptions because I feel like there are so many when it comes to partnering with a PEO. I know you mentioned earlier about the, hey, I'm going to lose oversight of my employees. I feel like that's a big one.
Yeah.
Anything else that you're kind of hearing?
I think the loss of control, like we said, is a little scary.
Yeah.
Because they don't maybe know any different. So all we try to share is how things would actually work. And I think I just want to kind of add on to that, which is we're always going to need somebody within the client or customer organization to partner with us because, again, they're the ones that get to make those final decisions and those final calls. We can't.
Right.
So we have to have a partner. And typically we're just there to supplement or add on to what they're doing. And something we'll often try to identify early on in any relationship is, where are you spending your time? Mr. or Mrs. Point of Contact. Is that where you want to be spending your time? What can we take off your plate? And then those become the things, we focus on, the proactive items that we, kind of crank out over the next 6 to 12 months.
Right.
So we're not there to make the decisions for them or to really replace anybody. We're there to just supplement it, which kind of leads me to another misconception is that we are there to replace somebody.
Yeah, I could see that being a common misconception. Oh, you're going to take my job because I'm doing HR right now.
Right.
Which I think would probably be a fear for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, to that, I just say, what else do you have to do that you haven't been able to get to in the past day or the past week or the past 6 months? What's been on that to-do list of yours that you wanted to get to grow the business or to re-strategize for the year or to, contribute in a different way to the operation of your business?
Yeah.
But that you're stuck doing on the administrative things.
Yeah.
So yes, we may start to take over some of the day-to-day tasks. Maybe your role is to file, quarterly taxes and annual taxes and do some of those things, and we can take that off your plate. So you maybe get a couple of hours back each week.
Darn, I don't have to do taxes anymore.
Right? Big win. So I think that's the big thing, is just allowing you to focus on the actual internal priorities within your company, and allowing us or handing over the reins on some of the other things.
That's great. Because I can imagine that would be just me personally, having somebody to kind of offload some things to would be huge, just in the sense of then I could be more strategic with my time and the things that I have on my to-do list.
Yep.
And I mean, everybody wants some time back in their week to be able to focus on those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I really do feel like that is such a win for a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
Anything else you can think of?
Something I've heard certainly as well is people don't, kind of goes back to the whole co-employment thing. It's a very neat concept. So it's with that, what happens is our customers kind of take on or acquire the PEO's federal tax ID number. So it is true that if you're with the PEO, your employee's W-2 at the end of the year is going to say the PEO's name. So ABC Construction, who's a GMS client, let's just say their W-2s at the end of the year are going to say that you work for GMS. And some employees are very confused by that. Some of our clients are still confused by that. So it's important for us to explain and to get in front of those employees. So it's one of the first things we try to do, whether it's an introduction meeting to explain who GMS or the PEO is, we would include in that conversation what it means to be with the PEO and explain that your business, your manager, your supervisor, your leaders still get to make all the decisions. We're just here to help with some of the administrative things, to streamline, to really be a neutral party in their court as well. So we're there as much to like help employers create or enforce policies, procedures consistently. But oftentimes an employee may reach out and say, hey, I think something weird's going on, or I didn't get paid all the way, like all my hours. Can you look into it for us? And we can kind of play that side of the coin as well as needed as a neutral third party, while always keeping our customer points of contact in the loop. So long story short, kind of demystifying for not just business owners, but their employees, what a PEO is so important. And there's actually a lot of benefits to joining PEOs. They're going to vary from PEO to PEO, but with GMS, for example, if you're a PEO client, you automatically get access to, your employees get access to something called member deals. So it's a really cool site where you can get like discounts on tickets and hotels. Like anytime I'm going to Cedar Point, I'm in Ohio, I'm going to member deals. I'm saving like $25 on a ticket. It's amazing. If I'm going to a ski resort, I'm looking across the country.
Expensive
I know.
now.
It's like such a little hidden gem. Like I'm constantly talking to our clients about that. But some, GMS clients as well, their employees also get access to early wage access. So it's a vendor we partner with where they can actually get like advances on their pay before their checks are released. So that's been really, really helpful for, that's very common in this day and age. People want their pay a little bit more immediately. So that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And especially with like certain industries, I think there tend to be more people that live paycheck to paycheck. Yeah. That's a nice option for them to have.
Yeah. So we kind of play the explanation, with demystifying this myth of like, I'm now the employee of the PEO. It's explaining what it really means. And then also talking about the additional benefits that may come into their way because of the situation or the relationship.
Absolutely. How would it feel from a employee scenario, a little bit here, we're kind of going off script.
That's okay.
how would it play from an employee scenario? Like how would it feel that transition to a PEO if they weren't currently using one, Megan?
Yeah.
They transition to a PEO. Does it feel much different, like from the day to day,
no? From an employee perspective, it's not going to feel really different at all.
Okay.
When a client's implementing, there's likely something your implementation team is going to share that says, "Hey, here's a memo or some verbiage you can share with your employees, if you'd like to announce or share that you're engaging in this new relationship, that their paychecks are going to come from somewhere new, maybe sharing that they'll have access to an employee portal." So like some of the logistical items, but on a day-to-day, everything's the same.
Okay.
They report to the same people, they do the same job. And, if nothing else, I think they're eventually better situated because there are some more like compliance or foundational resources in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely think it can only be a value add to the employees, which I see no downside to that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Let's talk about what an employee what a PEO can really do for our clients. I know you've touched on payroll and a few other things. Anything you want to add to that from, the benefits or what we're doing on a day-to-day basis?
How long do we have? Not to like bullet point
we'll keep it real short.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, there's so much. And, every PEO is certainly going to have a slightly different like service model or maybe way that they assign team members or way that they do things. But I think universally, a PEO is going to be looking at, there's certain things within a client organization that are going to kind of dictate what the PEO is going to do for you.
Right.
So
where you focus.
Where do we focus?
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to say here is it's all very customized in most every situation.
Gotcha.
It's going to be customized to what a client organization wants, what they need, what they've identified, whether it's through a sales and onboarding and implementation process or from a kickoff with their team. I would hope that any PEO is going to customize that service offering to the organization. So it could be based on their size, their industry, certainly, the location. So is it just one state, multiple states? I also think their stage as a business, we talked earlier, are they kind of in that infancy or startup stage versus in a growth stage versus just kind of a maintain stage. That's okay too.
Absolutely.
But, we talked about payroll, kind of the basic. Everybody's going to participate in the payroll. I think from there, I'd have to talk, as we're talking about services, I do have to talk about the foundational things. Shockingly, you think, oh, I work for a company, like they're going to have policies. I'm going to know what's expected of me as an employer. Or employers are going to know, well, this is what I can expect from my employees, or what I can ask that they do, or even when I could discipline them, and surprisingly, there's maybe no handbook that even exists, or maybe no job descriptions exist that explain what the expectations and duties are from an employee.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that we talk about. And if none exists, it's the first project we do. So that is something that maybe feels a little bit canned or like routine, but that's because it's so important.
Yeah. And I think that's important not only from a compliance standpoint, because people need to know what's expected from them, so that if they're not doing those things, you can do progressive discipline and coach them out. But I think it's also good just always start any relationship with why.
Yeah, 100%.
Why am I here and what am I doing?
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely.
And through, meeting any new client, and our goal is to build a relationship. Like, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know your business though too. I want to understand what your goals are.
Yeah.
And things like that. So
Absolutely.
that weaves its way in as we're creating these foundational items, or updating, modifying, maybe making more current those items. I had a client who's in North Carolina, and they started a temporary job in California.
Okay.
And we were updating they were new. They started in November of last year, and updating their handbook. Everything looked good. Federal information. We have a state addendum in there for any states they operate in.
Wait, you said they're working in California?
So yes, California.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even learn this until we were going through the handbook process with them. And I was talking through the North Carolina addendum and states specific to that state, or rules specific to that state. And almost to the final stage, they're like, we should probably tell you, we hired, 8 people in California.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, when? Tell me more about that. Again, they're still new to me at this point. I'm learning. But obviously we added that addendum to the handbook, but it also turned into having to create and add a whole paid sick leave, plan design in their HRIS system.
Yeah.
And because they were temporary employees in California.
Gotcha.
Who were eligible for this paid sick leave in that state. They also had some overtime and double time that should have been owed to their California employees. And they had no idea. So we, built out a worksheet for what they back owed, and then ensuring that they made those payments moving forward, because California's overtime laws are very different than the federal.
Yeah.
And it just kind of came about by going through that like question and answer of getting to know a new client. So again, back to the foundational stuff being so important.
But they probably would have not known that whatsoever, and really been kind of at a loss.
Right. Yeah.
On what to do. And that's really where PEOs, I feel like, make a big impact on organizations, is they kind of fill those gaps of knowledge.
Yep.
That a business owner, like, they started that business for reasons beyond the fact that they're doing HR, they're managing employees on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Yep.
So I think that's really kind of that peace of mind, knowing that you have a trusted advisor who's going to know those things and make sure that your business is protected at the end of the day. So that's wonderful. Let's talk about some of the ancillary benefits that partnering with a PEO can really provide a business. So we talked about, obviously the compliance, the day-to-day management of your employees, but what are some of the things that we didn't know we were going to get from that relationship?
I hit on this earlier, like technology has become increasingly more important in the PEO space, and like pretty much any outsourced type of space. So some things like automatic HR new hire onboarding is huge. Clients don't even know that they need it or want it. Maybe they're still using paper. They think that's, the best thing since sliced bread.
Love my filing cabinet.
It takes a little bit of time to get them there, but the quick switch into the electronic world is really huge there, as well as enrollment and benefits being electronic as well. It's great for tracking. It's great for audit purposes. It's great for compliance with the Affordable Care Act. So it allows us, they're just kind of quick wins that we can implement. True ancillary benefit offerings too that, some, maybe not all PEOs will offer, GMS does, for example, are things like pet insurance, life locks.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like kind of a buy-up dental insurance, vision insurance, short and long-term disability. There's a supplemental life insurance. So those things that maybe as a 10, 20, 50 person company, your employer is not thinking about offering. Well, you get it on, you may, depending the PEO, GMS, you get access to it automatically. You can enroll in it. The deductions come out of your paycheck, and then you've got this really great complement to what you maybe already had.
Yeah.
So that's true ancillary kind of benefit offering there. Something else that's kind of small that I just want to hit on because I saw it recently is tracking, time off and PTO for your team. Again, electronically, being able to build, track, and allow like electronic requesting,
Okay.
approving, and tracking of that time in the system. So it's going to automatically update, how much time somebody has available to take off. They can see it right there in their employee portal that they have 38 hours left ready to take is huge. Our employees love it.
You give that to the employee to manage. So
You
much
give it to the
better.
employee. Exactly. I have seen recently organizations who have like a little physical calendar hung on the cubicle of like, oh, I just note when Joe's off and I just note when so-and-so's going to be off. But nobody else has visibility to that. Things change.
Absolutely.
People then don't know how much time they maybe have. So
I would worry about even taking time off myself because who would be
Constantly
tracking that when I was gone?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's been fun. I guess the last thing I'll kind of share about like what we do is we've talked a lot about some of the proactive project-based things. So how we can help with handbooks, job descriptions. We haven't really talked about some of the other things like other project-based things like wage analyses, stay interviews, exit interviews, retention or turnover analysis, all those project-based things we want to do. And that's going to be customized to what our clients need. But there's a huge piece of the pie that we haven't talked about, which is like the reactive things. So things that are happening out with our customers and they don't know what to do.
Okay. Give me an example.
We're just like, call us. Yeah, call us. So gosh, these examples are endless. I'd say recently we had a retail client.
Okay.
And just what they reported to us was that an employee was overheard making some racist comments.
Oh.
And so, of course, as it should, it was reported.
Right.
The client reported it to us. And so we did a quick investigation. It did result in a conversation of discipline with that employee who was kind of corroborated that they said these things and a reminder of the policy. But the cool thing was we didn't just say, okay, here you go have a conversation with your employee, which again is kind of that reactive thing. But then we could turn it into, well, what else? Is there a culture there of maybe lack of knowledge of what your policies are,
right,
or not understanding what is and is not acceptable, just general professionalism.
Yeah.
So it turned into kind of a diversity and inclusion like memo, and then some training that we were able to do, just another way to get in front of employees and encourage and enforce that, what the company believes in and what their expectations are.
Right.
So that's something that, is reactive. They're like, we don't know what to do. Do we fire this person because she made these comments?
Right.
Do we, what do we need to do with this other employee who was offended by it? And so we could help mediate all of that and give them the peace of mind that like, hey, let's take this one step at a time. It's important we address it. We take it step at a time and make sure that everybody feels like it's been wrapped up completely.
Absolutely. Because we did talk about that in one of our previous podcasts, that is getting ahead of like what could essentially be a lawsuit, and you having to spend countless hours and time and money that you don't have on litigation that could have been avoided by just putting some of these things in place.
And you can't put a price on that. You can't necessarily put a value on that. I think that kind of almost plays into some of the returns an organization will get on the investment in joining a PEO. Some of them are not necessarily realized right away, but it's like, hey, I maybe just prevented, maybe it's sexual harassment or racial discrimination. Absolutely. Or a wage and hour situation.
Any of those EEOs.
Yeah. So they lean on us for some guidance. We maybe avoid a potential costly lawsuit down the line, hopefully.
Absolutely.
In addition to some other things as far as the return on investment goes, we're hopefully saving you a lot of time, hopefully saving you a lot of headaches, things you don't necessarily want to deal with and handle on a day-to-day basis we can help with. But there are some kind of immediate, returns as well. Working, some of the things we just spoke about are a little harder to quantify.
Yeah.
But really
those long-term ROI, right?
Exactly. That's like the foresight.
What's some of the short-term then?
Yeah, I would say the more realized or short-term like returns are going to be if we can save you money on that huge bucket, that huge costly bucket of yours, which is like your healthcare premium. So if you offer group healthcare, you know how expensive that bill is every year. So often
it's only getting more expensive.
It's only getting more and more expensive. It's wild. And so if we can save you some money on your premiums there year over year, help manage the cost there, is a great short-term and kind of realized ROI. In addition to workers' compensation insurance, the same thing. Typically we can be most competitive because we're also partnering with you on like the safety side of things and the mitigation of those workplace injuries. So that's a really nice kind of immediate ROI as well. Something else on the topic of workers' comp, and then I think we'll probably be wrapping up soon, but If a client organization joins the PEO's, workers' compensation policy, depending on what that experience rate or experience modifier rate is, many times the PEO's EMR is lower than a client's EMR. So this is big in industries like construction or
Right.
roofing, where
Is it when they bid for jobs?
when you bid on like a job,
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
typically sharing what your EMR is. And if you can bid on a job with a lower EMR, the chances of maybe winning that bid
Yeah.
or winning it at a better cost or better price are higher. So kind of goes into, it's a little bit straddles the short and long term ROI of, you're hoping to gain some more business by being able to use that PEO's EMR, which is like a unique thing that, not everybody knows. So
Yeah, that's great. And those are really great quick wins. I think that can help a business reinvest even
Yeah.
some time. You talked about time savings. That's an immediate thing. I think that a lot of business owners would love to reallocate that time into different areas that could be revenue generating.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Megan. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate you joining us today. Once again, Megan Croley, our VP of Client Services here at GMS. My name is Alyse Kimble, Training Development Manager here at GMS. It was a pleasure having you guys with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the People's Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion helpful. Stay tuned for more insights in our next episode. For more expert guidance and resources on small business management, PEOs, and more, give our podcast a follow. Find us on social media or visit us at groupmanagement.com. That's groupmgmt.com. We're dedicated to helping small businesses everywhere make their operations simpler, safer, and stronger.